So we're doing Meet Your Maker. Now this is Tim Reeves from Chris Reeves Knives, and he'll tell us more about that. Now here's the thing. Here we are at towards the end of day one,
right.
And you guys were busier than hotcake makers at an Elk Lodge breakfast with a bunch of hungry Boy Scouts. So here we are. It's kind of settled down. We're drinking some whiskey, and we're here to look at some of your knives.
Yeah. So. This show was pretty wild. It's we're at the California Custom Knife Show, so that's a little bit of a different show. So we like to bring some fancy stuff, some little limited editions, things like that. That's the nature of the room here. But all those knives are gone already. All the knives we brought to sell, went this morning. We had a great time. Did some lotteries. Did some first come first serves. It was a really good time. It's actually a very humbling time where so many people are excited about your product and just say so many good things, and it kind of sets you aback at the end of the day.
Well, it's good to see that hard work leads to that appreciation.
Yeah, I mean, you don't expect it, and then it comes, and it's very humbling. That's all I can say, I guess.
It's hard to take a compliment sometimes. When it even happens to me, I'm like, really? You like that? Well, then hot dog. So tell us about what you have in this magic
Well, this
box.
is some of my personal knife roll. Like, you can't go to a knife show without bringing some fun stuff to show. But this is a nice little knife roll that my wife had gotten made for me, and it's a couple of my personal knives. Starting with this guy, this has been my daily Sebenza for the last over a year. It's just Cerakoted OD green. It's just a plain Sebenza. Drop point with Magna Cut. It's where this knife, I've had a couple different Magna Cut blades in that I've tested, whether it's pushing them until they break or just rolling the edges,
torture testing.
I have to do all the, someone's got to break this stuff, and so that lands on me.
So that's Magna Cut. What do you think of Magna Cut?
It's been great, man. It's been really good. It's an interesting steel with any super steel. There's a learning curve of how to manufacture. Each one has its characteristics, so there's been a little bit of learning there, but nothing too crazy.
So there is a song called Johnny Come Lately, There's a New Kid in Town.
Right.
And I put New Steel in Town
there
instead.
You go. Yep.
So how does this compare to the last popular kid, which was Crewwear?
Crewwear. So, okay, that might not be a good one for me to compare, because I know Crewwear is on the fringes of my knowledge, so I wouldn't be able to directly compare it as well, but I could much more directly compare it to S30V, 35, S45. Those three steels we've used in the past, they're kind of along a tree branch of metallurgy design, if you will. So basically, to compare them to those steels, which are pretty commonly known, what you get out of Magna Cut is, well, here's a good way I like to say it. So with steels, you have this little triangle. Everybody talks about the triangle. So you have your overall toughness, your corrosion resistance. I like to call it Sharpen Ability at the top, something along.
Because you don't want to have to go to somebody to sharpen your knife every time.
You want to be able to tune it up and touch it up real quick and not, and move on with your day. So that's a loose way to put that. I mean, you can dive into each one. There's complexity of each one a lot more. So that's why I kind of call it Sharpen Ability. The paradigm that we have is anytime you pull on one of those or two of those, you're going to lose out on the third. Right? There's no free lunch. I like to call Magna Cut the first super steel that actually deserves the name super steel, because Dr. Laren Thomas, who was the one that came up with the chemistry, he managed to pull really all three corners at the same time. It was massively improved toughness, massively improved corrosion resistance, and usually when you can increase those two, you just lose your ass on that sharpen ability or getting an edge retention, that kind of stuff. They managed to hold and maintain that, if not improve it over some of those other knives. I can get off into the weeds of where they all exactly stack up, but for us, we like to have as much of a balanced triangle as we possibly can. So you get into some of, I think, I might misspeak, I think Crewwear is one of those, and I'm like M4, a lot of those tool steels, they might be super, super tough, hold a really, really good edge for a long time, but there's no corrosion resistance. They patina, they whatever, which is fine, and a lot of folks that, like the patina.
As long as you're willing to put up with
the patina.
The reality of it,
With
yes.
with our product, it just doesn't lend itself to that. We sell our knives to every corner of the globe. I need as much corrosion resistance as I possibly can get within balance. So anyway, that's kind of the scoop with Magna Cut. It's been a really cool steel.
Very cool. And what else do you have?
So that's kind of the daily driver. This is another cool little one. It's just tumbled blades or tumbled handles and a DLC blade. Just another. I love plain Sabenzas, large plain Sabenzas. That's my go-to.
Well, when you like a style, it's okay to get more than one.
Right.
And then since you are pretty much ground zero of where they're made, you can make it as tricked out or as special as you want it to be.
On that note, like, I generally get like the weird rejects and the scrap parts. So like this one right here, where I got this DLC blade, is there's a delamination chip out like right there that I couldn't sell it. So throw it in a knife, and then now I can test the DLC a lot more too. I'll run it in my pocket and kind of abuse it and see how the DLC holds. I've got a good idea of how a DLC holds, but you can always test stuff, right? Let me put that away for a second. We'll stay on these Sabenzas. This is my carbon fiber 31. This is one of the first 31 carbon fibers. Again, it's a lot of like orphan parts put together, but kind of proving out that we could do the carbon fiber on the 31. We've done it on the 21, we've done it on other knives, but it's always good to build it, run around with it for a little bit. But so that's my large 31 of carbon. Carbon fronts are really cool because they take 1/3 of the weight basically entirely out of the knife. So they're really cool.
And they're darn
knife.
good looking too.
They look really good. I mean, carbon fiber is always very attractive.
Oh, yes.
And all that. So very cool little knife there. So that's another Sabenza. This is kind of a fun one I put together. This goes out. I built this for Mote at Blade HQ. One day I'll put this in his hands. This is Ultim inlays, so Ultim 1000 on a large Inkosi with a swedge. I threw this together, kind of proof of concept on the Ultim inlays. What's funny about Ultim right now is it's very hot in the industry, and to us it seems like it's about like 10 or 15 years too late or something like that. Back in 2009, we came out with our kitchen knives, and my dad found Ultim, and his whole thought process was like, well, I don't use plastic on my knives, but if I'm gonna use plastic, I'm gonna use the best, right? So Ultim 1000's got some pretty cool characteristics. Of that is a pretty high heat resistance, a decent impact resistance, and it's completely non-porous, so it's food grade for like a kitchen knife handle. So it's just, and very unusual. The machine's great, it polishes up great. So anyway, you're seeing Ultim show up in all sorts of cool places now, these days, in the last like year or so in the industry. So Mote over at Blade HQ, he convinced me to do that. On the backside here, I have one of the prototypes of our new pocket clip that's coming out here soon. It's for quite a while we were promoting, we were looking at doing a titanium 3D printed pocket clip, but we haven't been able to find that the technology when it comes to the surface finish isn't quite where we need it to justify for us. So this is actually still titanium, but it's metal injection molding. And titanium metal injection molding is an emerging kind of, I mean, it's an established industry, but it's kind of an emerging process. It's very, very cool. So we're looking at those are hopefully going to be able to debut by the end of the year, or maybe early next year. So
the whole 3D technology is growing really quick.
Yes.
It's exciting to see where it's going to go, especially, I mean, for knife parts itself, for sheets.
Yeah.
Oh, snap.
I mean, yeah, 3D printing, MIM technology, there's a lot of cool technologies you can bring together. And look, my dad was the one that taught me and showed me, how to keep your eye out for new processes and new materials and new ways to do things, and always kind of keep your mind going. Doesn't mean that you always have to adopt them. You have to make sure it works for you, but you always got to keep
to be
your
aware of
feelers
them.
out. Yes. So this is something we're playing with. Look, it might be a complete flop, but we're gonna have about 20,000 of them coming here soon because that's the minimum purchase for the mold. So that kind of covers those guys. I've been daily carrying this guy more recently. This is actually the very last Wilson Combat in Numans. I also have a polished version of that same clip on there that I'm running around with, trying to kind of see that it works. Oh, on the clip too, just for people to know, we mirrored the bottom, like the belly of our standard pocket clip, basically. So it functions and feels almost exactly the same, and it works great for a clip. The retention's there. You can actually still flex it and tweak it, like if you like a little more tension or a little less, you can still tweak on this thing and not screw it up. So yeah, kind of a cool little thing there. We'll be able to polish it, do different finishes. Another cool little thing to show off, we started making our own body screws and pins, and so the standard body screws, but we're also revamping a lot of the current hardware that we're making. So currently what's going out the door are, for the pivots on the Numans and the Incosis, they're made out of 303 stainless. 303 is a great steel, but it's non-hardenable. It's very corrosion resistant, but it's rather soft. So same thing with the body screws and pins. Those were all the purchased ones, and like the pivots we made out of 303. We're moving into we're turning it pre-hardened 17.4, which is it's a hardenable steel, which is very similar to 416. But what's nice with 17.4 is I can source bar stock that's already hard, and we turn it hard. So it's in the mid 40s. We're not up at 60. It doesn't need to be 60. That's not what we're doing here, like a blade steel.
You just want to be able to where if you needed to put a tool on it, it's just not going to spin out and cause
blow out on you.
Yeah.
It's so yeah, the hex of your broached holes with tools stay, because you get your undersized Allen wrench and it rips your shit out. So the other cool part is we're polishing the dome. So this is one of the new 17.4s. That was actually the very first one that came off the machine. There'll be some adjustments. We'll make it a little wider because it's a little deep in there. But to give you a comparison, on the backside, this is the finish off the 303. So we're being able to kick up the finish. This is a 17.4 with that mirror polish on the dome, and that's straight off the machine. They don't have to be tumbled or polished by hand. They look just absolutely chef's kiss, So that's been a lot of fun making our own hardware entirely now. There's not a single purchased piece of turn parts in our shop anymore. By the end of the year, we should have pretty much everything shipping with entirely our stuff. I still got a lot of Incosi screws that I bought that I still got to get through, and they're fine, So then the very last one here, this is kind of a fun one. This is one of the first, what we call slick Numans, with the little KG gun coat on there with the CRK gray, and then it's got a boomerang blade, and then that blade is pretty damn cool.
Excuse me, there I get this to focus. There you go.
Oh, you're good.
Just the ability to give you all the opportunity to appreciate the design on the blade. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the little polished lock arm there, and then just finish it off with a zirconium Jekyll to Hyde backspacer. Mr. Bill Hyde, he's a absolute magic person. He's a local to us. He's been a long-term customer and a dear friend, and he started making backspacers for our knives, and they're just really cool. It really took off like wildfire in our community, and so he always kind of comes over with one of the newest model, and we'll sit and we'll talk about him and stuff.
So if you don't mind me asking, you did serve in the military too, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
No.
How many of your clients do you find are in the military?
A good amount. It's actually one of those other humbling things is where you get a letter from a soldier that's on the other side of the world somewhere doing something, and they just kind of write you a love letter in some ways and say, hey, this tool either saved my life or I did this with it and it performed well.
Because you have fixed blades too.
Yeah, we do military knives. We do the knife that is like a military fixed blade knife that is issued to the graduates of the Green Beret, Special Forces Green Berets Q Corps.
That's super cool.
Which is really a very humbling thing to be a part of. And so we're tied into the SF community in that way. But no, I never served. My mother never served, nor my wife. My dad served 18 months in the South African military another couple lifetimes ago.
Yes.
That's probably the closest, and that was mandatory over there.
Right.
So,
Kind of, sort of.
And that's actually, because of that is where he started making knives. He went out on an operation and
found a need and decided to fill it.
started making knives that way, basically. Yeah.
Now, do you do very many collaborations?
We do. I mean, we've got a handful of collaborations, like the military knives. Those are a collaboration. They were designed by Bill Harsey, and then we kind of turned them into Reeve knives. But we've done some collaborations throughout the years. And,
Very cool. Very
fun.
good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time with us. I'll try to sneak in next time. Have Enough Day is putting in the time, FaceTime, to build rapport with R1.
Right.
To come in here when it's nice and quiet,
Right.
the calm before the storm, and to see from earlier what I was able to tell, absolutely beautiful knives. And once again, an empty table is a sign of success.
Yeah, it's like a full belly is a happy belly or something like that.
That's right. It's time to take a nap.
Yeah, exactly.
Time to take a-
So,
well,
and I'll say real quick, I just have to shout out R1 and the R1 Productions crew. They've taken over the California Custom Show. We've been coming to this show since Dan at Plaza was running it. The first time we came to the show was 1987. My folks were still living in South Africa and came out and met Bill Harsey, all that. I wasn't even born yet. I was born in 91. So anyway, we've only missed, I think, 1 or 2 years. It was like 2020, 2021 maybe. It was the only 2 years that kind of broke our hearts.
Yeah.
So anyway, the show passed over to Sako and Tamar and the R1 guys, and they worked their asses off. They know how to run a show. Dan had a killer show, and they just refined it and took it up a notch. So big shout out to all those guys, and it's just awesome being here. It's like a room of family.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us. Now here comes from the internet. Look at this hand. Oh, everyone in YouTube land is shaking your hand because they appreciate the hard work and the perseverance that you put into your brand. And thank you for carrying on the family tradition. And as always, have a nice day.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We will all the guns of the forces. Get ready. Airborne from skies of blue. Get in the glow. We're coming. Make the jumps and take your bows today. Let's go put on your boots. Your jumping boots, your parachute. Your parachutes. Get all those gliders ready to attack today. Hook up or we'll be gone. Pouring a jet into the dawn. At station time to fight them all. The 82nd way. Hey!